Here to discuss secrets to getting more and better lender approvals is John Palmer, President and CEO of Promax Unlimited. Please give him a warm welcome.
Hi, I'm John Palmer, and my workshop is entitled Secrets to Getting More and Better Lender Approvals. I'm absolutely convinced that after you see what I'm going to show you over the next few minutes, you'll end up selling at least an extra 20% of sales on your existing showroom traffic. You don't need to spend a lot of extra money generating additional leads and showroom traffic. You already have enough. You just need to get more of them approved and with better tiers. Let me show you how. First of all, the average price of a new car in 2016 was $34,372. A used car was $19,367. The average monthly new car payment was $505, and the used car payment was $382. 61% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. 21% of Americans don't even have a savings account. 90 to 95% of Americans will finance their next car purchase. That means that for the vast majority of the public coming into your showroom, it's not price that's important, it's payment. It's getting approved, it's the payment. 90 to 95% of the public is payment buyers. So that $34,372 price of the average new car, it might as well be for the average American, it might as well be $34 million. They have a certain amount of money down, they have a certain amount of equity in their trade, or in most cases, negative equity, and they have a certain budget that they can afford, and they want to find the best vehicle that fits that budget. Let's go ahead and show you how. Both ends of the finance spectrum, by the way, hit all-time highs in 2016. Subprime hit an all-time high, and also leasing is back in a big way. As a matter of fact, leasing hit a record, as we all know. So both ends are back. Special finance is 42.5% of the market, with subprime loan volume doubling over the past 5 years. Very important. So again, as I said just earlier, for the vast majority of people, the payment, interest rate, and credit approval are far more relevant and important than price. The more credit approvals you have, and at better terms, the more sales you make. It's that simple and that obvious. So more and better approvals require the utilization and integration and optimization of 3 key elements: information, people, and technology. Now, in order to go ahead and get better, you have to know how well you're currently doing. So you need to track how well you're doing based on credit bureau score ranges. And it's amazing how few dealers know exactly the type of prospects that are coming in their store and how well they're doing with each type of prospect by credit tier. So what I highly recommend is that you go ahead and set up tiers of credit, know how many prospects you've got for each tier, what percent of that was your total, how many of those people did you submit apps to, how many prospects were submitted, the apps approved, your sold, and your closing ratio. What you're going to find is an amazing disparity between people with bad credit and with good credit, and a huge opportunity in handling the bad credit people correctly. Startling fact is that for most dealerships, over 50% of people they pull a credit bureau on with a score of 639 or below, they do not even submit to a lender. What an opportunity these people represent if they would only be worked correctly from the beginning of the sale. The number one reason closing ratios are so low on subprime customers is they allow the customer to pick out the wrong vehicle because of poor qualifying. So, in order to prevent that, I'm going to suggest that you use soft pull credit technology to pre-screen every prospect early in the sales process so that that doesn't happen, so that your salesperson who spends all afternoon selling a customer at full list on a brand new vehicle, only to find out by the F&I manager after they pull a bureau that he put them on the wrong vehicle, is to pre-screen your prospects with soft pull credit technology. You're going to get more deals approved of making sure the customer's on the right vehicle. Now let's talk about what soft pull credit technology is. And that is, it's extremely consumer friendly. There's no social security number or date of birth required. There's no credit app or signature required. It does not show as an inquiry or affect the prospect's credit in any way. It speeds up the sales process, and that's a big thing right now, to try to go ahead and get people in and out of the showroom as quickly as possible. It avoids confusion and disappointment. And by the way, soft pull credit technology is not new. It's been in the auto business now for over 7 years. It's been in retail for quite a while. How many of you out there right now watching this video have been pre-approved or went to a Highline department store like a Neiman Marcus or Saks Fifth Avenue, went to pay for your purchase with your Visa or MasterCard, and were told you've been pre-approved for a Neiman Marcus card, and that if they got that card right now, you'd save an extra 10%? Probably most of the people in this audience. Guess what? You had a soft credit pull done on you. Now, what are the legal requirements? And this is a hot topic right now in the auto business, soft pull credit technology. What are the legal requirements, disclaimer, and warnings that we have to share with you? The individual dealer decides the parameter of who is pre-approved. You have the power to decide based on what credit tier you're going to offer a pre-qualified amount, at what interest rate range, and at how old of a vehicle you'll go to. So you have that decision. And again, a firm offer of credit is required for those pre-approved. But this is a firm offer that, again, now has to be based on the customer selecting an appropriate vehicle where they have the appropriate collateral. You then have to go ahead and make sure that the customer has the correct down payment, collateral, and can afford the payment based on his income. Selecting the right vendor is critical. Do not accept compliance promises at face value. There's a number of vendors out there right now that are offering soft pull credit technology. Work with a vendor and your legal counsel to ensure proper steps are taken in compliance with soft pull marketing and used to ensure compliance with federal, state, or local law. Just as with any credit-related product, compliance requires effort and will require employer training to avoid pitfalls. Written materials and dealership employees characterized properly. You should exercise caution before any credit inquiry with express written permission from the customer. Having a fail-safe solution is essential. As I mentioned, you have to go ahead and give that firm offer to the customer. You can do it in two ways. One, you can present it to them as they are leaving the dealership. And what a great exit tool. What a great way to say, by the way, Mr. Customer, sorry we put a deal together. However, you have been pre-qualified at our dealership for up to $30,000 in financing today, or that's good for the next 7 days. Now, if you choose not to, if you don't do that, make sure that the vendor you're working with will mail that to the customer. And by the way, it's a great unsold showroom traffic letter, because not only, of course, are you saying, hey, thanks for coming in our dealership, looking forward to giving me, coming from the general manager, give me a call, let me see what we can do to work together. But then you're also pre-qualified for financing here at our store for up to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, whatever it might be, but this offer expires in 7 days. So it's a wonderful, wonderful way to go ahead and be compliant and also generate additional sales, because you're probably doing an unsold showroom traffic anyway. Also, another big topic is using soft pull credit technology on your website for your credit app for more and better pre-approved credit leads. Every one of you out there right now has two things in common, minimum, obviously. One, you all have a website. And two, your website has a credit application on it. For many of you, your credit application is just a complete full credit app, which includes a Social Security number. Guess what? That Social Security number is almost an 80 to 90% bounce rate. Would any of you watching this video right now put your Social Security number on a dealership's credit application with all that we've been hearing about identity theft and data breach? I doubt it. That's why it's an 80 to 90% bounce rate. So a customer wanting to get pre-approved on a specific vehicle in stock is a much better and qualified prospect as well. So some of you that offer a credit app, it's very hard to even get to. You might have your financing tab, obviously, your navigation bar on top, and you'd have to click on it to get pre-approved. Other dealerships use it far more aggressively. And by the way, I think most of you will agree, there's not a better type of internet lead than a credit lead, somebody wanting to get pre-approved. So here's some great examples. I absolutely suggest that you put the ability to get pre-approved on your vehicle detail page, on your VDPs. If somebody's already interested in a specific vehicle and also wants to get pre-approved on that vehicle, are they not further along on the sales process? I think everybody would agree they are. This is an example of what I'm talking about as far as a much more consumer-friendly credit app. Here's an example right here of a soft pull credit app. Look what you have to ask for. Name and address. Obviously, you want to get their email and their cell phone. It's for contact, to follow up. But that's all you need. And again, reiterating, doesn't affect their score and how consumer friendly it is. That's it. That's the credit app right there. Now, when the customer clicks get submitted or submit, literally almost instantaneously in a couple seconds, they see two things that are very important. A, they've been pre-qualified for up to, boom, whatever you've gone ahead and put in your configuration as far as based on their credit tier, what you want to allow them to go ahead and pop up for how much they've been pre-approved for. In this case, $40,000. But they also get to see their credit score. And more importantly, what that credit score means in terms of where they rank for the rest of the country. Just giving a score. By the way, 60% of the country does not really have an idea of what their credit score is. This is a very consumer-friendly thing because nothing impacts the payment more than the interest rate, and nothing impacts the interest rate more than a credit bureau score. Wonderful information. Which, by the way, then as soon as this information is given to the customer, that information, the information that the dealer gets, is not only, of course, the customer contact information, but the exact credit bureau score, and all the information on the customer's open trade accounts, including interest rate, including the exact payoff, right to the dollar, including the original loan amount. Which, by the way, this is a wonderful thing for people with good and bad credit. And when I mention that interest rate, we still have, even though the interest rate just went up a quarter of a point, I believe, we still have extremely low interest rates compared to the last few years. Extremely low. So now when you see somebody with a great credit bureau score of whatever, 700 plus, and you see that they have an interest rate of 6 or 7% on their current loan, well, now you can talk about, instead of price, interest rate savings. And also a sense of urgency. Because guess what? These rates are only going to keep going higher. So why not go ahead and take advantage of them now and buy today? Great qualifying information. And by the way, you can't be a great closer without first being a great qualifier. Here's some suggested plug-in images that some dealers have used very effectively. Again, not just going ahead and having pre-approved from the Finance tab, but showing it prominently on the home page. Make sure your website is built utilizing responsive mobile design. Right now, about 50% of credit leads are coming through a mobile phone. Another maybe 7% are coming through a tablet, and the rest of the 43% are coming through a desktop or a computer or a laptop. But over 50% of most dealerships' credit leads are coming through a mobile phone. So make sure that you have it definitely responsive mobile design. Now, let's talk about that special finance customer. You properly qualified them early in the process. How do we work them? How do we work those 42.5%? That right now, 50% of those people are being kicked out the door by most dealerships without even submitting them to a lender. They're just giving up. Got to qualify them correctly, like we just talked about. You got to make sure you have the correct inventory. Have the right mix of lenders. Give them a choice of 3 vehicles always. Then give them 3 payment options on the vehicle they choose. Okay, qualify correctly. Trade-in, income, let's maximize that income. Down payment, there's some ways to go ahead and get more down payment. Expectations in co-op. In fact, let me go back real quick because I want to share with you a great idea that I actually just recently got from a dealer in terms of a great idea to get more down payment. When they're filling out the credit app, ask them if they have a savings or a checking account. If they say yes, which they obviously will, what is their average daily balance? Now, instead of asking them how much they want to put down, which most people will say 500, right? 500, 1,000. Guess what? You know what their average daily balance is to go ahead and work the deal after they select the correct vehicle. All right, we got to make sure you have the correct inventory for your subprime customer. What works best for the prime side may be exact opposite of what you need for the special finance customer. A lot of great tools out there to go ahead and find inventory, but they're pretty much focused on fast turn, and again, having the price very competitively to come up first, in the first 5, 6, 7 spots on whatever Auto Trader or Cars.com or any other third-party site. Just the opposite, though. 50% of the gross on subprime deals is based on the spread. The other 50% is how you work the deal. Okay. First, analyze your current inventory. Subtract your cost that you own the vehicle for from the book value. Now, what do we mean by that spread that I said earlier? Most subprime lenders will advance a certain percentage on a book value. And a lot of lenders will use NEDA trade-in, by the way, clean. NEDA clean trade, 110% will be their max advance. So you have to go ahead and book out your vehicles by NEDA trade-in, subtract your cost, and those vehicles that you have a nice spread, those represent great vehicles for your special finance customer where you can make a very nice profit. If, on the other hand, you're upside down, you really stand no chance of making any money or being able to do much special finance business. Example that you see right here, 2012 Ford Fusion, NEDA clean trade, $12,350. What dealers were buying them for recently, as you can see, $10,250, over a little bit of a $2,000 spread as compared to the Chevy Camaro. Not so good for the special finance customer. So if your current inventory analysis shows you need vehicles, then go to the auction with a list of vehicles to buy for your special finance customers. Right here is an example of, based on tier, you can see some great information to go ahead and provide to your used car manager to go to the auction about vehicles that have a very, very high volume for special finance dealers based on this tier right here, 575 to 619, and the average profit. Now, notice again, number 2 is a 2015 Nissan Altima. Well, maybe a Ford dealer probably would not go ahead and consider buying a 2015 Nissan Altima at the auction. They're thinking, that's not what my customers want to buy. Well, that's what their special finance customers need to go ahead and buy. Those are the type of vehicles right there. So here's another one, credit tier 520 to 574. You can see the different vehicles right there. Some of them obviously are the same. Notice these average profits. If you work a subprime deal correctly from the beginning, most subprime customers will provide you at least $1,000 to $1,500 higher average gross than a prime customer. Credit tier right here, 460 to 519. Again, different vehicles right there for you to buy. Having the right mix of lenders buying aggressively in your market for every credit tier, including open bankruptcies. It's essential that you have the right mix of lenders. You don't need 15 or 20 special finance lenders. You need 4 or 5 that you go ahead and give them business, and they will go ahead and work with you, know their programs. Notice I said including open bankruptcies. I bet you there's very few dealers out there that know right now that you can go ahead and sell non-recourse a customer that just filed bankruptcy, as opposed to a lot of you think that it has to be discharged. Not the case at all. There's a number of lenders out there that will go ahead and approve, fund on a non-recourse basis a person that just filed bankruptcy. And for most dealerships in, say, mid-markets, there might be 500 to 1,000 customers within 30 miles of your dealership that file bankruptcy every month. You have to be the first one in their mailbox, offering them the ability to get financing. And you have to have a lender, obviously, that'll do it. And there are plenty of them. Other thing is you really need to know your lender's programs and know their rep and buyer. Not just what's stated. As we're going to get to in a little bit, most lenders will go ahead and use not just one, but two, minimum of 2, and sometimes 3 credit bureaus as far as their score is concerned for not just the initial approval, but for the tier. They might not say it though. You'll have to talk and ask them, what other bureaus will you use as far as defining your tiers? And you'll be amazed that just about every lender out there has, yes, they have a primary bureau, depending upon what state they're in, obviously, but they'll also have a secondary bureau that they'll absolutely be willing to look at. Other items that you need to know is obviously, their maximum PTI, debt to income, advance. You need to go ahead and talk to these lenders and have them come to your office, and buy them lunch, and get to know their program. Now, this might be a little controversial, but trust me, it'll help you. Pull all 3 credit bureaus for every credit application. As I just mentioned, most captive prime and subprime lenders will use the highest score 2 or even all 3 bureaus to determine approval and tier. 60% of multiple scored applicants have risk scores that vary by more than 20 points. How many times out there have you people seen where two different bureaus, the score could vary by as much as 50, 75, I know some of you have even told me 100 points. Same individual, same day, two different bureaus. And obviously the variance is dramatic. And by the way, the variance is bigger on the lower credit tier customer than it is on the higher tier customer. So let's face it, if you pull a credit bureau on somebody and they're an 805, there's clearly no need to pull the other two. However, if you do pull somebody on a 595, then yes, you should pull another one, because there's a number of lenders out there that's at 619 score will go ahead and decide whether they go ahead at prime or subprime, or it might be 629, it might be 639. So if one of the bureaus that your first bureau you pull is a 595, yes, you absolutely should pull a second or a third one, and you might be amazed that it might be 640, it might be 645. So here's what a 1-month study of 800 dealerships and over 200,000 credit bureaus showed, is that pulling two bureaus on every prospect, there was an extra 7% of all prospects, of all unique prospects, that had one score of greater than 640. Now, let me share with you what that means. The closing ratio of people 639 or less was 23%. Now you got to remember, this is not just showroom traffic, this is showroom traffic where a credit bureau was pulled. So clearly these are people much further along in the sales process. 23%. The average profit was $2,702, okay? Less than $639. Well, notice the closing ratio greater than 640. So the closing ratio less than 639 was 23%. The closing ratio greater than 640 was 59%. Average profit was roughly about the same, $2,700, 640, 2935, so an extra couple $100. But look at that difference in the closing ratio, 59% to 23%. Wow. It's really important to do two things. One, get better at subprime, but also, hey, pull an extra bureau. See if you can get that customer out of subprime and into prime, and look what your closing ratios do. Notice pulling 3 bureaus on every prospect, an extra 9% of all prospects will have one score greater than 640. And there you can see there what happens there, 24% closing ratio compared to 60% closing ratio. So it pays. Bottom line is, don't trip over $10 to pick up 10 cents. So in order to go ahead and try to save some money on credit bureau revenue, you might be costing yourself a lot of extra money in sales and gross profit. Now, going back to the subprime customers I was talking about, always give them a choice of 3 qualifying vehicles. John, my manager has selected 3 vehicles he thinks you really like, fit your budget, and be able to get you financed on. Which one of these 3 would you like to look at and take for a test drive? That's the way to handle it. Now, whatever vehicle they select, then give them 3 payment options on that vehicle. Not 1, not 2, but always 3. Always 3. 3 different options. The price is the same, okay? But what varies on these 3 options is the down payment, the term, and the monthly payment. So you're giving them 3. You're not just simply stating, here's the price, here's the payment, here's your down payment. You're giving them 3 options. By the way, whichever one they choose, it doesn't matter to you. You've got them approved, and it's the same price. Now, let's talk about the credit application and customer interview. Obviously, you must be completely, totally, and accurate credit application, and it has to be from the very beginning. Because if it's not, and your lender suspects that you might be going ahead and not being truthful or honest, that's really going to go ahead and not only go ahead and destroy that deal, but hurt your reputation with that lender for future deals. Verify employment and income when possible. Equifax has a product called the Work Number, where about 40% of the country, by the way, is their employers are giving pay stub data to Equifax, where you could go ahead and check and clearly go ahead and identify that this is the correct income. Because it's amazing, about 30 to 40% of the public will go ahead and overestimate their income 20% or more. But 10% will go ahead and underestimate their income 20% or more. Example of what it looks like, okay? Obviously, accurately and completely list income. Not just the gross monthly income. Obviously, that's what most people are thinking. But there's other types of income a lot of people have that you need to ask them questions. For instance, a second job, a part-time job. Do they have child support, a pension, any SSI income, any disability, any other monthly income? With the subprime customer especially, income and down payment are what it's extremely helpful. So the more income you can get, the better approvals you can get, better tiers, and the more vehicles you can offer this customer. So income is essential. Another great thing to ask while you're going ahead and doing a credit app is ask this customer how many months until their next raise is due, and what is that raise going to be. For instance, if this customer has a raise coming in 3 months, and it's going to be $200 a month, we all know what the main objection is going to be down the road, and that's going to be the payment's too high. Well, if I have a customer and I need to be at $450 a month, and he doesn't want to go over $350, guess what? It only lasts a month. His first payment's not due for 45 days. He only has 1 month where he's really got a problem with the payment. Because guess what? The next month, he's got a $200 extra a month as far as income is concerned. Is that extra $100 a problem at that point? No, it's not. But you have to ask the questions, and you have to do it at the right time, which is the credit app. If you're doing it when you're negotiating on the payment, it's going to figure it out. You need to do it at the time of the credit app. Get the story behind the numbers. It's still very, very important. Yes, we're in a digital age, but it's still extremely important to have that one-on-one FaceTime interaction with the customer, because there's extreme difference between, say, 2 people with the same score of, say, 535. One person never paid their bills ever, nothing but charge-offs, horrible credit their whole life. However, another person, you'll see that at one point in time, they had just tremendous credit, paid their bills like you couldn't believe, then all of a sudden, boom, they were hit with a tremendous medical emergency or disaster with one of their family members. And they had to file bankruptcy due to medical. And then their credit went down to that 530. Big difference between those 2 people, and by knowing it, you could go ahead and have a story to tell your lenders. Ask for a co-applicant if it's going to be needed. Do it correctly. Ask. And some of the best dealers out there in subprime, they'll have up to 50% or more sometimes of their applicants will have a solid co. National average is about 15%. So how do these good dealers get it? Well, A, they ask, but they do it with professionalism and talent. For instance, I know a dealer that uses this script. John, I can either go ahead and I'll either need you to come up with an additional $3,000 down, or do you have a co-applicant, or do you have a friend or a relative that would be willing to co-sign for you on the loan? Well, what do you think he'd rather do? Come up with $3,000 or find somebody that would be willing to co-sign for him? It's a great word script to use. Try it. I think it'll really help get you more co-apps. Use Route 1 or DealerTrack with maximum effectiveness. Send to the best, most profitable, most likely approval lender first. Don't shotgun. Use the note fields when appropriate. There's certain lenders, not all, that if you put in a note, okay, it will go ahead and not automatically give you a reject. Now, submit a properly structured actual deal, not a payment call. Don't always go for the maximum advance, because if you get an immediate reject, we all know how difficult it is to rehash an auto reject from a scoring system. It's very difficult, if not impossible, most of the time. So instead of asking for 110%, send in a more conservative structured deal. You can always rehash it when you get an approval on that deal. You can always then rehash it for more profit, for more payment. You can always rehash it. So send in a properly structured deal, conservatively structured deal, when appropriate. Rehash your turndowns with talent, expertise, and rapport. Know and talk to your buyer on a regular basis, like what I was just talking about. Talk to their boss every couple months and ask how your portfolio is performing. Let them know that you two are in this together and what you can do to go ahead and make their portfolio perform better. Never beg. They don't care if the deal's been spotted and your owner is giving you a lot of pressure to go ahead and get this financed and get it approved. No, talk content, alternatives, customer story. Come up with more income. Restructure the deal to score better. There's some lenders right now that actually have an online tool that will allow you to go ahead and change the price, have different advances, different down payment that will allow you to restructure this deal to go ahead and make it score better. A qualified cosigner, as we just talked about, perhaps a different vehicle. Switch them to another vehicle that way they could go ahead and fit their budget and the lender would approve. Final thought. If you want more approvals, then you need to get more applications to get more credit leads. Here's 4 great ways to do that. Automotive credit trigger leads. Been out there for about 12, 14 years. What are they? Many of you have heard of them. Some of you are using them. What they are customers that have had a credit bureau range pulled the day before from a customer, a dealer in your radius, whatever it is, 30 miles, 20 miles, 40 miles. Typically that credit bureau score would be, say, 460 to 639. Remember I was just showing you that the vast majority of dealers have an incredibly low closing ratio and that 639 or below? So these people are still in a market. You can get that actual customer's information. You have to send them a firm offer of credit in the mail. About 30% of them will come with a phone number that you can call right away. But these people are still in the market because they did not buy a car. The people with really good credit, they have that high closing ratio. So these automotive trigger leads are a great source. That bankruptcy mailer I was just talking about, you can actually get bankruptcy leads for free by going to a government website. Okay, it's very easy to get. All your costs would be the mailer. There's many companies out there, by the way, many direct mail companies that offer a bankruptcy mailer. And again, it's got to be that are just filed. You need to be the first one in that mailbox. It's extremely inexpensive. But boy, the return on investment could be amazing. High interest rate, high FICO mail piece. As I was just mentioning, you can absolutely, again, go to many direct mail companies out there and say, look, I want to go ahead and within 30 miles, I want to go ahead and send out a letter to everybody that's got an interest rate of 7%, but a FICO score of 700 or greater. And oh, by the way, that at least 40% of their loan is paid down, because you obviously don't want to go ahead and get somebody that's dramatically negative equity. What a great piece that is. Finally, send out an email campaign to all your prospects in your CRM offering free approval and see their credit score with a link to that Soft Pull Credit app. So have that Soft Pull Credit app, send out that email to everybody, which, by the way, something like this with a subject line. Get free pre-approved financing, auto financing, and see your credit score and ranking instantly. That way, it does not in any way offend the customer with good credit. They want to see what their credit bureau score is and see their ranking. It's a wonderful way, and I guarantee the first time you do that, you'll probably go ahead and have amazing results, depending upon the size of your database, of course. But you'll have amazing results. That's it. Well, thanks very much for listening to my workshop of secrets to getting more and better lender approvals. I'm John Palmer. Thanks very much.